Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as the decision around Erik Ten Hag's sacking takes another twist and continues. But I would say embarrassing, indecisive, unprofessional, disrespectful and completely and utterly out of touch with what the majority of United fans want. That is the behaviour of INEOS, the Glazers and the running of Manchester United at the moment, because I really struggle to find a scenario that replicates what Man United are doing at the moment. Apparently still this strategic review is taking place, which has been taking place since the beginning of February. They're still doing it now. What is going on? It is really disrespectful to the fans and to the manager that is currently in place, who has won 2 major trophies in the last 2 years, has had to put up with an absolute shitstorm and took a load of shit because of this ownership. And they're now still, according to Fabrizio Romano, still in the last 3 to 4 days. So we're talking over the weekend and Friday. They're still talking to other managers. This is from Fabrizio Romano. INEOS are still talking to other managers in the last 3 to 4 days. And I would say to you, whether you are Ten Hag in like the majority or Ten Hag out like the minority, it matters not. Surely we are totally and utterly united by the fact that whether you want this manager to go or whether you want this manager to stay, it is bloody inefficient and embarrassing how we are taking so long to make a decision like this. I've seen clubs like Watford, Crystal Palace, Leicester, just get on with it. Just sack your manager and bring your other manager in. Or back your manager publicly. Manchester United, one of the biggest sporting institutions in the world, spending months and weeks after the end of a season, still not putting anything out there. It reeks of incompetence, it reeks of desperation, and it reeks of Glazers 2.0. And that is the concerning thing here. As I said on Twitter earlier, I'm actually getting to the point where I'm sick of it. I will not concede that I wish they'd just get on with sacking Ten Hag, because I think it's a massive mistake which I will shout and scream and moan about. Quite rightly, many other people will. But bloody hell, if you're going to do it, at least have the conviction to get on with it. I mean, this is just cowardly. It's cowardly. If they sack him in the next few days, I'll call them out for what they are. Weak. Because they should have just... They were obviously going to do it on the Friday before the FA Cup final. And to wait a week and a half and think that the modern football fan of this football club is just going to forget about it and go, oh, well, they've left it a week, it's fine. If that's the plan of a senior leadership team of one of the biggest football clubs in the world, is to, go down to the pub and wait for it to blow over for a week. Absolute prats. And if that's been the plan, I really am terrified about what they're going to do. The only thing that was sort of making any sense to me is that they'd probably come to the wrong conclusion. Ten Hag had won the FA Cup. They'd seen how the players had played for him and won the last 3 games of the season, including beating the best team in the world for me, Man City. They'd seen how the fans had responded to it positively. You got new kits coming out, you get new players in, you get a load of shirts bought, you get a load of positivity, and you ride that wave of positivity. And that was my justification for what they were going to do. If their actual plan is we don't care about selling shirts, we don't care about positivity, we don't care about momentum, we want to do what we want to do, and we're going to wait a week and a half and still do it, bloody hell, it's like old Dave who I used to play football with when I was a kid. He'd get knocked out and take his ball home and no one would have a ball to play with. It's just petulant. If that is the plan, let's wait for it to blow over and still do what we want to do and ignore everybody else. How out of touch do you want to be? I mean, we've had 20 years of the Glazers. What have we got now? So I still believe and hope that they will stick with Erik Ten Hag, because everything else that's coming out today doesn't make any sense. But let's have a look at what Fabrizio has said today. So Fabrizio Romano has broken it out like this. Mark says, Nix says, Mark, let the professionals do their job. I don't mind the professionals doing their job. Can you tell me who the professionals are? Just because someone's a billionaire doesn't mean they know how to run a football club better than you, mate. I mean, I'm still really labouring under this point of lifelong fan. I've never met a lifelong United fan that seems to know what to do with United, contrary to everybody else. He doesn't seem to have a bloody clue. Lifelong United fan who quite likes the idea of Southgate. lifelong United fan who quite likes the idea of sacking a manager that's got the majority of the fans behind him, that's had a horrible season, that's developing youth, that's won 2 trophies. I don't get this lifelong United fan thing. I just don't get it. And also, lifelong United fan, this was the quote from Sir Jim Radcliffe 2 months ago. Arteta's done really well at Arsenal, and Arsenal have been patient with him, which is really nice. This is a direct quote from Sir Jim Radcliffe 2 months ago. Arteta's done really well, and it's great that Arsenal have been patient with him. It's really nice to see. He's a lifelong businessman, says Just Kevin. I mean, I don't think his grasp of football is that good if he's going to follow through and allow his first few months to be a sacking. And thanks everybody who picked up on what I said this morning as well, because it was sort of off the cuff, but it's absolutely spot on. How do you take over a club 3 months ago and get no credit for winning an FA Cup? How do you take over a club 3 months ago with a load of buzz and in the space of 3 months lose all that buzz and faith and respect so that you get no credit for the FA Cup at all? I mean, how do you drop the ball so severely? Within 3 months, the club has won an FA Cup and nobody's saying, well done INEOS, they brought around this positive change. They've, instead of attaching themselves to their FA Cup and the positivity, they've gone and attached themselves to the Glazers. It's weird behaviour, and they've made some big mistakes in the first few months. They can, look, announce Ten Hag staying, I'll get behind you, I'll respect you. But that FA Cup, I mean, how do you drop an open goal like that? If you'd have said to me when INEOS took over at the start of February, we're going to win the FA Cup in the end of May, but nobody will give INEOS any credit for it, I'd say, what have they done? How can they not get credit for that in their first 3 months we win an FA Cup? But, we've lived it, haven't we? So, but look, this is what Fabrizio Romano is saying. He says that in the last 3 to 4 days, new manager talks have been held between Manchester United and the representatives of managers, including people like Thomas Tuchel. They're doing this in case they decide to sack Ten Hag. They want to have a contingency plan if they decide to sack him. And obviously those representatives that they've been talking to include Thomas Tuchel, who really wants the job. Now, social media tonight is a little bit rife that Tuchel probably will be the person who gets the job if they can't get the guy that they want, which leads to the question, who's the guy that they want? I mean, I don't want to go down that road, really, because you could easily steer into something that's going to cause a load of stress to people, or you could easily excite people. Now, I would love to say it's Nagelsmann or Ancelotti, because those two managers, for me, if Ten Hag was to be sacked, I'd sort of go, I wouldn't mind having a go with them. I don't want Ten Hag to be sacked. I'm just saying I can't control it. So if Ten Hag gets sacked and it was Ancelotti or Nagelsmann, I'd go, well, they're not bad coaches. But as Richard says, it better not be Southgate. I've had a lot of stick for this, but I genuinely still think they're waiting on Southgate. Look, explain to me why it's June the 3rd and we still don't know who our manager's going to be next season. Now, I know we've been through a lot as a fan base over the last few months and years, but like last summer, we were hoping that we were going to get a sale so we could buy players, and it didn't happen till Christmas. But I don't think anybody would have predicted back in March that on June the 3rd, we'd still be waiting to know who our manager was. I mean, can you imagine your reaction if I'd said to you, breaking news, absolutely A-star information, this is at the end of March, I say to you, we won't know whether they're going to keep Ten Hag or not by June the 3rd. They'll still be making their mind up. You'd have said, what are you on? You're joking. What? June the 3rd? What are you talking about? And here we are on June the 3rd, and we still don't know whether they're sacking or backing Ten Hag, and if they do sack him, who the manager would be. The fact that people like Pochettino and Tuchel and De Zerbi have been available for weeks and they haven't made their mind up, your mind can start making things up. So is there somebody that they're waiting for before they make a decision? Because can you tell me a scenario where any big club or small club, has ever done this? You win an FA Cup 10 days ago, you still haven't decided to sack your manager, but you're talking to other managers. It reeks to me of they're waiting on somebody. That's what it reeks to me of. They're waiting on somebody, because absolutely not. I don't believe in the strategic review. I don't believe in it. I don't believe that you still don't know what you want to do. There has to be a reason for this. And it's one of three things. It's fear, because they want to sack him, but they're scared of doing it. It's because the guy they want won't come and they're still trying to persuade him. Or they're negotiating with Ten Hag on a deal that suits everybody for him to stay. And it could be one of those three things. Well, if it's somebody that we're waiting for, then it has to be somebody that we're trying to persuade. And if it's somebody we're trying to persuade, it won't be Ancelotti. It won't be Emery. It won't be Zidane. The only person logically that we could be trying to persuade would be somebody who's in a job at the moment that doesn't know whether they're going to be in a job in the next month or two. Well, that can only be international management. And therefore, it can't be Nagelsmann because he's staying at Germany and he's just signed a new contract. So it has to be Southgate, of which I know we were speaking about and to in March. And as we know, Ashworth loves and INEOS admire. So, you know, if you think things can't get any worse, you might have Southgate in charge of Man United in 2 months' time. And I just can't get on board with it. I can't. As I said this morning, I was talking to Angry Ginge yesterday, and he was like, if they get rid of Ten Hag, I'm done. And I think a lot of United fans feel like that. You're taking us back down to ground zero and asking us to suck a lemon. It's going to be bitter and horrible to swallow. Look, I'd take Tuchel over Southgate, but is that what? I mean, I don't want Thomas Tuchel actually. I don't want that. But I do. I agree with the finest. I think the review is absolute bollocks, and I think no matter what anybody says, it's an absolute joke what they're doing. And all this we need time bollocks. I don't agree with it. I think that they bottled it, which shows weak leadership. And, I mean, would you respect INEOS more if they'd sacked Ten Hag after the FA Cup final and followed through on what they wanted to do, or they wait a week and a half and lose a week and a half of the summer transfer window? Because if they sack him tomorrow, you can't announce Thomas Tuchel on Wednesday. I mean, if they do, they deserve every bit of shit they're going to get. You can't sack a manager that no one wants to get sacked and then disrespect him by announcing the next guy the next day. There has to be a period of transition, just purely out of respect. You can't go, you sacked Ten Hag, and here's Thomas Tuchel, everybody. You can't even that's stupid. There has to be a period of a break, which means more delay as well. So yeah, it's just really weird. It's really, really weird, which leads me to hope that actually the delay is the negotiations with Ten Hag on a new deal, or how we go into the final year, or how it's going to work. That's the only thing that would allow us to move forward very quickly. Because if they are waiting on somebody, then bloody hell. And if they are going to sack Ten Hag to bring somebody else in, it's going to be a long process because you've got to have a break period. Whereas if they keep Ten Hag, we can just crack on with what we want to do. But you know, how it's going to work, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let me just get some of your comments in. Daniel Pollard says, I think Ten Hag has been the best manager since Sir Alex. What do you think? Well, factually, he is, Daniel. His win ratio, his 2 trophies in 2 years, his development of the youth, the fact that he's maintained a vast majority of this fan base behind him through one of our worst ever seasons. I think it's tick, tick and tick, yeah. Jack Glancy says, a lifelong supporter that tried and failed to get 2 teams before Man United. Literally third choice FC, says Jack. Should be a summer of excitement, yet it's depressing, says Nick. Well, as I said, how do you buy a football club 3 months ago, get no credit for winning an FA Cup, and then completely burst enthusiasm for what's meant to be the biggest summer transfer window in probably a decade? I mean, I hope it's all going to turn around and become really positive when we can look at this and go, yeah, bad start, but they got there in the end. But I don't think anybody could predict that they could mess it up so badly in their first few months. And maybe they've got a load of barriers in the club. The Glazers are still there. We don't know the truth of what's going on. We don't know the power battles that are going on behind the scenes. But they have made a bloody mess of it. They've made a mess of it. Even if you want Ten Hag out, you've got to concede they've made a bloody mess of it, because you're probably going, why didn't we sack him a week ago? So everybody's frustrated. Should be a summer of excitement. Yes, Nick. I'll be doing 2 like Ginge. I'll be here to support you in the United stand. I said it once. A rat, always a rat. Glazers and rats out, says Sumi. United Av says, I'd like to see Ten Hag manage another season. It's a poor season. I'd like to see them get Pep. The connection with Barada is already there. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, as Kevin G. Nick James says, it's obvious Spinios wants Southgate, but can't make it public with him at the Euros. They will set Ten Hag up to fail by not signing players, and then Ten Hag will go, says Nick. If I was Ten Hag, I would run. It's very unprofessional, says Ollie. INEOS have single-handedly ruined the FA Cup for us, says Bex. They ruined the build-up for us and they've ruined our celebrations, and I'm sick of it, says Bex. This is being pathetic by professionals. We need to get on with it. I'm being bored to a point that I just don't care. Stick with Ten Hag, says Padina. So scared they're going to sack Ten Hag and bring in Downgrade to replace him. Then we start all over again, says Stephen. Is he getting sacked or not, says Daniel. I've heard rumours that he is. If it were up to the Glazers, they will try to do the easy, popular thing and keep Ten Hag. INEOS are acting professional and looking at other options, says Ashwin. What's this? If it were up to the Glazers, they will try to do the easy, popular thing and keep Ten Hag. INEOS are acting professional and looking at all options, says Ashwin. I mean, Ashwin, I don't know where you've been for a while, but I presume it was a coma or somewhere without connection to the internet. The Glazers sack managers all the time. INEOS sacking a manager. I mean, I've never heard such bollocks in all my life. Stop trying to make out that the Glazers would keep Ten Hag and INEOS are doing something new by sacking Ten Hag. The Glazers sack managers every 2 or 3 years. If INEOS sack Ten Hag, they are Glazers 2.0. They're not doing anything new, are they? Read something crazy today. United would not lose Euro spot as City are in the same boat with Girona, says Paul. Yeah, we spoke about that this morning, mate. For what the Glazers want, it makes sense and it's cheaper, says Kyle. Anyone know what the buyback clause is for Ghana, says Nick? No. And Rios, thank you very much for joining the members club. What's your percentage now if he stays or goes, says Zand? I'm still 75% that they're going to keep him because honestly, I can only react to the news of what Fabrizio said. It's disgusting. It's absolutely, I don't care what anybody says. It's absolutely disgusting that Fabrizio Romano, what Fabrizio Romano has reported. Not Fabrizio, but what he's reported. Man United have been talking to managers in the last 3 or 4 days. So that's post a week ago when we'd heard that they were swaying back to keeping Ten Hag. It's so disgustingly disrespectful. I'm ashamed of how Man United have behaved under INEOS and the Glazers over the last week and a half. The leaks on the Friday before the FA Cup final could have lost us Europe and lost us a trophy, and somehow Ten Hag and the players found a way to get us a result. And then for the last week and a half, we are openly talking to other managers. It's a disgrace. It's disgusting, and I'm ashamed of how we have behaved as a football club. Not many football clubs behave like this. They may be incompetent, they may sack managers too soon, they may bring in the wrong guy, but to have and humiliate a manager that's given nothing but his best, whether it's good enough or not, and has been massively respectful of this fan base and this club, and has won 2 trophies, and is developing youth, and is openly saying, even though you're treating me like shit, I want to stay here and finish this project. And for him to be stood there just waiting for that approval whilst they're flirting with other people is bloody disgusting and does not uphold the morals of Manchester United Football Club as I see it or as many of you see it. It is bloody embarrassing. It is bullying, and I don't understand it. And I don't understand why Sir Jim Radcliffe doesn't see it for what it is as a lifelong United fan who would know what Man United stands for and say, we don't treat people like this. We don't treat our fans like this. We don't treat our managers like this. And we don't treat our reputation like this. We are openly allowing this story just to be out there that we're talking to other managers whilst holding Ten Hag on a lead, hinting that we might keep him or send him off. It's amazing to me. Do they care not a jot about their reputation or the reputation of this football club? Even the Dan Ashworth thing is embarrassing. Dan Ashworth's our director of football at the start of February. Still not here in June. Just story after story about how we fucked it up. And now we're going to go to court. Like, there's a reputational piece here. And they're not handling it well at all. I said to somebody today at United, I said, look, throw us a bone. Throw us a bone here. Like, it's not that United fans even want to moan. We just, what do you expect us to do? Like, give us something to talk about that's positive and we'll get behind it. But you're not even trying. You're not even trying. You are absolutely, every single day, making us frustrated, embarrassed, disrespected, you won't give us anything. And you're probably sat there going, why won't they be patient? Why won't they give us a chance? Because you're not giving us anything. Like, it's like you give something and then you take it away. As I said, I was moving towards the Ten Hag would be kept. And like, let's get on with this project. Let's go, INEOS, let's go. And now you hear that we're talking to other managers still. Who are you talking to as well? I mean, look, Nagelsmann was available. We didn't do it. Kieran McKenna was available. We didn't do it. I would have kept Ten Hag over both those. But this waiting around, even the managers I wouldn't take as Ten Hag, but would take them over some of the shit that's left, we've lost out to. So I would have took Nagelsmann and McKenna. Well, we've blown that now, haven't we, with McKenna? Because if we sack Ten Hag and we go for Tuchel, you can't just say you're keeping Tuchel for a year until McKenna's ready. So we've messed that one up as well. So I don't think McKenna was ready, by the way. I'm not being a hypocrite. I didn't think he was ready, but we've messed that up anyway, because if McKenna's ready in a year or two and we go for Pochettino or Tuchel, you've got to hope that they fail so that you can go for McKenna again. It's weird. It's just really weird. And I don't think they know what they're doing. I really, really don't. I don't think they've got a grasp. I think if they sack him, they're just doing it because what I said at Christmas. Sometimes new owners want their guy. But you know what? That doesn't even ring true. New owners do a lot of the time sack the current manager because they want to bring their own guy in. Whether we like that or not, that does happen. But hold this. They don't own the football club. The Glazers do. The Glazers appointed Ten Hag. So INEOS can say we want our own guy, but the Glazers own the football club. So look, I'm like you. I try to find reasons for the behaviour, but ultimately it's bad behaviour, and we're just still waiting to see what's going to happen. But they were saying this morning, I think Fabrizio said it, and another news outlet was saying that as of today, the strategic review is still ongoing. I mean, what football... Look, I'll say this again, and if anybody in the comments, live or watching it later, hello to you if you're watching it later, you're very welcome. Can anybody think of any other football club that has ever done this, where they have a review from January, the season ends, and then you still keep the manager, but you might get rid of him, and it's into June? I don't understand it. And but what I do understand is the people who are getting scared and going, if this is what they're doing with the buzz of the honeymoon, what's it going to be like when they get their feet under the table? Because if you imagine the INEOS Man United relationship like you've just got married and you're on your honeymoon. Now, I don't close your ears if you're not used to what a honeymoon is. So a honeymoon is when you've got married. Now, normally a marriage is a positive thing. You're marrying somebody that you absolutely are besotted with. You have a great big party. And then you go away, just you two. You leave the party and you go away for a week or two to somewhere nice. And if it's a really good honeymoon, even if it's somewhere really hot, you probably don't come back with a suntan because you spend a lot of time in the bedroom having a really good time. Watching telly, ordering room service or something like that. You know what I mean? So on the honeymoon period, everything's great. Oh, it's amazing. Life's brilliant. Well, that's what's meant to happen with this INEOS thing. It was meant to be Barada to Ashworth. We keep Ten Hag. Let's get some players in. La, la, la. And instead of being in the bedroom all the time, INEOS haven't packed any luggage. They've took us to a caravan where it's raining. There's no toilet facilities. There's no internet. And we've got no food. It's like the worst honeymoon ever. Like, they've completely dropped the ball. And if this is the honeymoon, what's the reality? Because this is the time where we're meant to be having unrealistic expectations and, getting pissed on joy and optimism. if this is the start, what's the reality? Because look at Newcastle's start. It was like, you know, we're in a relegation battle. Eddie Howe comes in. Bruno Guimaraes. You know, we're nicking Dan Ashworth from Newcastle. Positivity, positivity, positivity. And obviously now it's settled a bit at Newcastle. Look at Man City. Just buy, you know. And it's bye to all the shit. Look at Chelsea when Abramovich came in. It's like they're going to dominate. I remember when Abramovich took over Chelsea. Oh, they're good. That's it. Football's finished. They'll dominate football for 100 years. And it felt like it a little bit, but they didn't, of course, because the honeymoon does drop off and the reality drops off. But our honeymoon period under INEOS, it's like a bloody nightmare at the moment. Like, where's the positivity? You were working on that, and also as well, the Glazers put the club up for sale in November 2022. INEOS bought the club a year later. What did they do in that year? Well, judging by the strategic review of the last 4 months, you can understand why. But that whole 12 months they had wasn't just about putting a bid process in. It was about what your plans are to make Man United successful. So they've had a load of time before they bought the club anyway. What? Did you not put plans in place then about what you were going to do? It's just, I'm confused by the mistakes, the dithering, and the Glazers 2.0. Like, there's just some things that I've said that I can't believe have happened. Like, you almost want to do the opposite of what the Glazers have done. So, let's be quicker in our decisions. Let's be decisive. Decisive, not divisive. Let's be decisive. Let's be efficient. Let's keep fans updated and communicate. Let's make them feel involved. Let's be enthusiastic. Let's make this club feel like it's going somewhere again. Let's be the opposite of the Glazers. And they've not done any of that. They've not done any of that, really. Barada was a positive, but since then it's been, you know, downhill. And also, let's not sack managers like the Glazers do. Let's listen to what the momentum is of the fans and the team and everything, where it's going. It's just completely opposite. And I don't really grasp why, other than there's clearly conflict going on, because it's really indecisive at United at the moment. But look, as we know, the bottom line is at the moment that there is still no idea on when we're going to get a decision. And as was said a few minutes ago, whether it's from Fabrizio or other outlets, the line coming out of United or the credible people in the know is that the review is still going on. Ollie says, I reckon Southgate doesn't want United announcement during the Euros preparation. INEOS sacked Ten Hag this week, then Southgate announcement before the Euros, says Ollie. I mean, can I just do a poll here? Because, you know, I'm one voice and I might be singing in the darkness here, but I can only give you my opinion. And look, as much as I love this football club, and as much as I don't want Erik Ten Hag to lose his job, if you gave me the choice of every Premier League manager and Gareth Southgate, and where would I rank Gareth Southgate, I would take every single Premier League manager over Gareth Southgate. I'm talking about, you know, I'd even take Leicester's manager, and I don't know who it's going to be, because I'm talking about, you know, I'm not talking Luton and Sheffield United and Burnley. I'm talking McKenna at Ipswich and Southampton and Leicester. I wouldn't take him. I'm not joking. I never thought I would see a day where Gareth Southgate was linked with the Man United job. And the great thing about me is there's no flip-flop. There's no hypocrisy. I've hated having Gareth Southgate as England manager for years. I don't rate the guy. Just check out That's Football. Go to That's Football and write Southgate, That's Football. And you'll see videos going back 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I don't rate this guy. And everything I know about football, I will say this. He ain't good. He's not a good coach. His style of football's crap. He only got the job because he's political, in the sense that he's a safe pair of hands. I think he'll win the Euros with England because I think I could win the Euros with England. I think you could win the Euros with England. I don't think it takes much. I mean, to be fair, look, you've got to be a man manager. You've got to make people like you. But I have to keep it calm for the sake of my blood pressure. I cannot believe, still now, months later, I cannot believe that Manchester United. It'd be like your mate, right? He's married to I nearly said supermodel. That's very, very shallow. It's like your mate being married to some person that is an absolute 10 out of 10. Whatever 10 out of 10 is for you, they've got the lot. Personality, looks, charity work, whatever. They're married to a 10 out of 10. And then they walk into, you can imagine what your 10 out of 10 is. And then one day, they walk into the pub with an absolute 0. Disgrace in every single way. And you go, what's happened to your other half? Oh, I've binned them off for this. And you just walk out the pub disgusted. Like, I've got nothing to say. I've got nothing. You're dead to me. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And the scary thing is, if that's the people running Man United who think Gareth Southgate's the guy, then I don't know who Barada is. I don't know who Wilcox is. I don't know who Blanc is. I don't know who Ashworth is. But I've got no faith in them at all. If Southgate's made it through those 4 names, then who are they? I just can't believe and will not believe that Gareth Southgate has ever been a serious contender for the Man United job. But what I can't ignore is the constant admiration that we have. So, yeah, I just can't get my head around it at all. So, yeah, look, let's wait and see what happens. I still stay 75% that we'll keep Ten Hag, even though a lot of people I like and respect have said to me, I think he's gone. I still think he's gone. And I understand that. But I think what's really important is, I think you can all understand. I think we're in 3, as I said, I think we've got 3 scenarios. 1, they're going to keep Ten Hag and they're negotiating how to keep him, whether it's a new contract or a year or whatever. 2, they're waiting on somebody because they could just take Tuchel or Pochettino. But I think they could be waiting on somebody. Or the third option, which I've completely forgotten, is that they're just they're just waiting to sack him because they bottled it doing it after the FA Cup and they already know who they want. So they're either going to sack him but they're scared and they know who they want. They're either negotiating with him on how to keep him, or they're waiting on somebody else, and if they can't get that person, they'll stick with Ten Hag or go with a lesser option. But I mean, again, that's terrifying as well. If they can't get the person they want, then you're not getting plan A, are you? So how far down the list have they gone to replace a guy that they shouldn't be replacing, I suppose? That would be scary. Will the delay cause overspending on players in the summer, says Dominic? Well, some people think the delay is to stop us spending money. I saw one of you this morning. I was reading some of the comments back and somebody said, I think all of this delay is being done on purpose because if they sack Ten Hag this week, they can't appoint the new manager until next week or the week after, which takes us well into the middle of June. Then the Euros are up and running, so they can buy time from that. Then you're into July, and then you keep most of these players that we need to sell. You buy 1 or 2 players, and you've saved yourself a load of money. So I honestly don't know what's happening with that. Are you still going to the Ilkeston football ground on Saturday, says Richard? Yeah, I'm on Ginger's team. I'm still hoping to go, but to be honest with you, I've been injured for about 2 weeks with a groin strain, and if you saw me play yesterday, there's a clip where Chris MD runs away with me and it looks like I'm going backwards, so I just can't run properly at the moment. So I'm trying everything I can to just try and get fit enough to play on Saturday, because I'll be playing a lot more. I'm meant to be actually playing properly instead of a cameo. So yeah, the plan is to be there on Saturday. Leocardio says, hi Mark, it looks like we might finally have some positive news via Fabrizio. According to him, we are just not looking for just a right centre-back, but also a left centre-back to cover Martinez. Yep, saw that. But I believe we want to see it. Eric says, please don't give us false hope that we're getting Southgate. So I'm getting excited. Dominic says, will delay. We've done that one. Dead says, hi Mark, off topic. I woke up from a Sunday nap. My daughter was waiting to be seen. I asked the missus where she was. Turns out she was at Selhurst Park. Oh, God. Richard Brown, thank you very much for your super chat. McLaren could stay on and organise pre-season before Southgate arrives, says Ollie. Okay, no. McLaren and Southgate. My God. Mark, I think that the relationship Jim has with the Glazers is a lot closer than we think. It's always the same crap. Glaze agreed, says Maurice. Well, I mean, that's something that I can't comment on. How close are the Glazers and Sir Jim Radcliffe, and is this just more of the same as what we've seen for 20 years? I mean, what I would say is about the whole Bruno Fernandes thing, is that not symbolic in a way? Is Bruno Fernandes having his agent talk to other clubs? Do we want to get real, or do we want to make up? Like, is that not something that many of you have spoken about for a while? Our best players will start to want to leave when they see the project for what it is. Shit. I mean, I'm not saying that's happened with Bruno, but we're all like, don't sell Bruno, don't let Bruno go. And of course they can sell it as we've let Bruno go. But what if it's Bruno saying, fuck this. This is shit. Like, this is rubbish. Absolute shite. I mean, if you're Bruno Fernandes and you hear that Man United might be going for Southgate, I mean, are you going to stay around? Or are you going to try and move somewhere else? I'm not saying that is the case, but are we finally starting to move to the point that many of you have been fearful of for a while, where players are sort of looking at it and going, I ain't fucking around for this anymore? I mean, I don't think it is the case, but it's an interesting way of looking at it. We will get an interim manager until Crapgate is available, which is a nightmare. The club needs a miracle with these clowns in charge. Guitar in, please, says 89. And Rory says, hi, Mark. Are they just waiting on Ten Hag to walk so they don't have to look as bad? Absolute shambles of a club. But remember, it's still Glazers, not INEOS, says Rory. Look, a lot of people ask that question. Why hasn't Eric Ten Hag just walked away? He's faced the ultimate humiliation, disrespected, and actually they don't care. They don't value him. He's won them the FA Cup. He's got them into Europe, which has made them money they wouldn't have expected. He's took all the shit on his shoulders for the last few months and been hung out to dry. Like, he's done absolutely everything. And they've humiliated him for it and made him wait outside while they make a decision. They've left him in the cold. The INEOS committee is sat behind a nice warm fire going, And poor old Eric Ten Hag is looking in through the window, freezing cold outside. Can I come in yet? No. We're just talking about Southgate at the moment. Gareth, take a seat. You wait, Eric. He's waited. He's been humiliated. He's been disrespected. He's not been valued. And he's still waiting outside. People would say, why doesn't he walk off and find a home that will look after him? Why should he? Why should he? Because, you know what? If he waits until they sack him, 10 million quid. If he walks, what does he get? And maybe that's why he didn't want to take the Bayern Munich job or interview for another job. Maybe he's just gone, hold on a minute. I want to stay here. I'm not going to give them an easy way out. They either sack me or back me. But I will not be going and taking another job because I know they don't want me. They can sack me and pay me the money that they fucking owe me. And he's right to do that. It's humiliating, though. He doesn't deserve to be treated like that. But if they do treat him like that, I hope he takes them for every bloody penny he can, because they deserve it. I reckon Southgate doesn't want United announcement during Euros, says Ollie. I think we've read that one as well. Keith says, I think INEOS are puppets for the Glazers. We've had nothing but more indecision since the FA Cup. Gideon trying to get Goldbridge to sack, says Ty. Mark, it will be De Zerbi, says Zuteng. We paid his release clause and the only manager Barada and the board like. They wanted De Zerbi at City to replace Pep. I mean, look, it could be De Zerbi. I mean, that would be terrifying for me because I have massive reservations about him. I think since Christmas in the Premier League, he's been stubborn to the point of sabotage in relation to results for Brighton. I think he's been a bit one-dimensional. I think he's a manager that under the pressure and microscope of Manchester United could buckle quite easily. I don't think he speaks publicly in a very confident way with a big attitude. You know, some of the stuff he's said about playing better football is more important than winning trophies, and sticking to my guns is more important to me than, you know, changing. I mean, every big manager does adapt. So I worry about De Zerbi, but look, it's each to your own. I'll be devastated because I'll be devastated if they sack Ten Hag, obviously, but I'll be more devastated, if I'm being honest, I'll be more devastated that they've ignored the vast majority of the people that actually get what this club's all about. You know, when you've got people like the Red Army saying stick with Ten Hag, you know, these are people who go home and away. When you've got the vast majority of United fans saying, let's continue this project, we want to see what happens in year 3. That terrifies me more than sacking Ten Hag, because it's like, oh my God, we have a dictatorship ownership. They're not actually interested. They don't care. And some people quite like that. They're like, well, you know, some people want to follow. Some people are like, I don't care. They own the club. They're the specialists. I will follow. There are followers and there are thinkers. And I think those people who want Ten Hag to stay are thinkers. And those who want him to go and just want to trust INEOS are followers. And that's fine. You get all sorts of different types of people. But it would terrify me that we have an ownership like that, because I don't think it's befitting of Manchester United. You listen to some of the quotes of Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson, and look, I don't know how old some of you are, but you never really knew who the CEO was. You never really knew who the owner was. You never really knew if you had a director of football when Sir Alex Ferguson was there, because he ran Man United and we were very successful. And I imagine it was the same with Sir Matt Busby. And now we're spending all this time talking about Omar Barada or Dan Ashworth or Sir Jim Radcliffe, because they don't want a manager like Sir Alex anymore. They want this puppet. And, you know, you listen to those quotes of Sir Alex Ferguson and Sir Matt Busby, and their famous quotes are about, you know, I work for the fans. My job is to entertain the fans. That you've got to send them home happy. And running a club by committee does worry me, but, you know, maybe I'm just old school. Maybe I'm worried United are waiting for Southgate to win the Euros before they announce him, says Lennon. But does Gareth Southgate winning the Euros make you impressed? I mean, I have England winning the Euros. I mean, I'm doing an England watch-along in 15 minutes. I've got England winning the Euros easy. Like, Harry Kane's the best striker in the world. Jude Bellingham, Saka, Foden, Declan Rice. I mean, I'm going to miss people out. There's so many good players. Phil Foden, I don't know whether I've said him. Foden, Saka, Kane, Bellingham, Rice. You got 5 of some of the best players in the world there in their positions. I think it's harder not to win it. I mean, let's just talk about Southgate for a moment. How do you lose a Euros final when you're better than Italy and you're 1-0 up at home? How do you fuck that up? How in the World Cup in a quarter-final against France, when you're better than them, do you fuck that up? Like, what people forget about Southgate is, I think we will win the Euros, but we should have won the World Cup and the other Euros. Like, he's already dropped the ball twice massively with a better team. So, you know, third time lucky, whatever, he should be bloody winning the Euros. I mean, if he wins the Euros, well done. He'll go down in history as, you know, one of only 2 England managers that have actually won anything. But bloody hell, he should be winning it. I don't see anything genius about Southgate winning as... I mean, look, you win the Euros with Scotland, Steve Clarke's a bloody genius. Give him the Man United job. You win the Euros with England. I mean, I'd almost say, how far down the English football pyramid do you go before somebody can't win the Euros with England? I mean, I think there are managers in the Championship that would have a go because they're that good. As long as you're a half decent man manager, those players can go and do it themselves. I mean, you don't need to say to Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden, right, I've got the plan. You must follow it to the letter. Otherwise, you're not good enough to beat France. You know, it's Rice, Bellingham and Foden. I mean, it's a heaven-made midfield 3. You've got one of the best goal scorers in the world. Saka's brilliant on the right. Yeah, I mean, he should be winning the Euros anyway. And if INEOS think that they can spin, we've got one of the best managers in the world because he wins the Euros, come on. I also would say what I've said before. We've wasted too much time on Southgate. I can't believe we're even being linked to him anyway. But also, if Southgate's so good, why didn't Barcelona want him? Why didn't Bayern Munich want him? Why didn't Liverpool want him? Why didn't Chelsea want him? Why don't Brighton want him? Why is it that we're the only club that's figured it out that Southgate's the GOAT? I'm Ten Hag in. INEOS aren't stupid or slow. They've decided to sack him and are working on comms. The trust between the board and Ten Hag is broken for it to continue, says Sam. Yeah, I mean, look, I can't argue with that. For every reason I find that they're going to keep him, I see a good one for why they won't. But if they're literally just waiting to find... Do you feel any less or any more accommodating to them sacking Ten Hag because they've waited a week? I mean, I actually think the further we move away from the FA Cup, the more determined I am that we should keep him. I just really want to build on what we did in the FA Cup and what we did last season with the likes of Garnacho and Mainu and Rasmus and Delot and Bruno. I want to build on that. I want to get working on that. All I want to see announced tomorrow is Frimpong or Elise or Branthwaite or Todibo. That's what I want to be talking about. I want to be like, we got something out of a bad season. We got the FA Cup. We've got Europa League. Let's get players in. And we're not doing that. We're talking about something completely different. Maybe they are sacking Ten Hag to give Sancho another go. I mean, look, Rob, yeah, Southgate's here and here's, Sancho and it's Operation Get Sancho and Rashford firing again. I mean, it's like an echo chamber, isn't it? Let's bring another manager in who might get the best out of Rashford and Sancho. Was that not what we tried to do with Ollie and Ten Hag? Maybe it'll be third time lucky. Do you think Bruno's going to go, says Rob? I wouldn't blame him if we bring the wrong manager in. This reminds me of the scene in Lord of the Rings where Treebeard and co discuss whether or not the hobbits are orcs or not. Yes, Kia. Yeah. So Jim Radcliffe is Treebeard. INEOS are just puppets for the Glazers, says Keith. We've read that one as well. What I'm fearful of, says Dead, is if they sack Ten Hag, we the United fans will make no noise and back the manager. We should back any manager, but now how do we show disapproval? Says Dead. Mate, come on. Look, as I was you just reminded me actually, if they sack him, each to your own. You make your own choice, and that's up to you. But let's not pretend if they do sack him, anything will happen in the fan base. And that's not. I think we've got the best fans in the world, but we did nothing about the Glazers for 20 years, and they let the ground rot. I mean, whatever INEOS do, if they do sack Ten Hag, it will be disgraceful, in my opinion. But they haven't let Old Trafford rot. They haven't built, billions of debt. They've sacked a manager. There are levels to this game. So if they sack Ten Hag, it will make me feel sick. But they haven't done what the Glazers have done to this club, and yet the Glazers are still here. So let's not pretend if they sack Ten Hag, anything will happen. We couldn't get the Glazers out, so we're not going to do anything. Unfortunately, I think what's happened to this fan base, and we're all guilty of it, is that we've been downtrodden for so long, we've lost any voice or ability to make change. The Glazers have just gradually diluted us down to a point where we're better at arguing amongst ourselves than we are of actually making change. There are football clubs out there that will do it. You see it abroad. I think Liverpool fans have done it as well. But yeah, and maybe that's part of their process. Maybe they're like, look, we're going to do it. We'll pick a day when we're going to do it and we'll ride the storm out. It's not like anything's going to happen from it anyway. But, there we go. What will I do? I sort of know what I'll do, to be honest. I sort of do. It's not right to say it now, but I sort of know what I'll do. Look, I'm never going to stop supporting Man United. I know fans of crap teams who, like Will supports Birmingham and the shit they go through. And yeah, supporting a football club is not about changing or walking away from it. But I think things will get very. Look, it's like I keep mentioning people I spoke to yesterday and over the weekend where they just say I feel like I'll be done with the club, and I get that, but it doesn't mean you will be done with the club. It just means that you'll just feel very detached from the club. I suppose that's it. You want to feel in tune with the football club, and you want to feel that the club are making decisions that you agree with. And for too long, we've had that for 20 years where you don't feel like that. And I think that there was this big hope with INEOS, and it's been a really bad start. And I feel very detached at the moment. And but there's plenty of fans of other clubs who feel like that and still support their team, don't they? I know this is left field, but I wouldn't mind Xavi as the next manager. But no to all the other managers that have been linked, says Mohammed. And and that's the problem for me. Pochettino, nothing's changed from 2 years ago where I didn't want him. I don't even have to spend time thinking about Pochettino because nothing's changed from 2 years ago and all the reasons I didn't want him then. So Pochettino is just a big no. Southgate, I can't even believe his name's getting mentioned. Potter, same. De Zerbi, I just have massive fit. I mean, if you'd have said to me about De Zerbi a year ago, I'd have gone really exciting coach. But this year, I just think there's so many red flags with him. And I'm not sure he can deal with handling a big club like United. Tuchel, I just feel like Tuchel's the guy who's been married 5 times. You can't trust a guy like that. Like, he's been at PSG, he's been at Dortmund, he's been at Chelsea, he's been at Bayern Munich, and I just think he's looking for another club to marry and, you know, it won't last. That's my problem with Tuchel in the most kindest way. He's like the guy that's been married 5 times and he's like, this is the one I love. And you're like, are we really? And how long's this going to last? And that's my big problem. There's nobody that we're being linked to that makes me go, you know, Nagelsmann, as I said, I didn't want him. I want to keep Tuchel, but I would have gone, there's something about him that's intriguing. None of those are intriguing, and that's the depressing thing as well. You know, as I said, if they were sacking Ten Hag and Carlo Ancelotti was coming in, I'd go, well, I'd still say I don't think Ten Hag deserves the sack, but Carlo's going to be really interesting. But yeah. What about Amorim? We won't get Amorim. The fee is too big. Zidane, I don't talk about Zidane, Ben, because I just don't think it's possible. I really, really don't. 88% of you do not want Gareth Southgate. All I can say about that is 90% of you want to keep to Ten Hag. So who's this 12% that would take Gareth Southgate other than trolls? Because that is incredible to me. Absolutely incredible. We've got nearly 14,000 watching, which is incredible as well, by the way. The only reason I mention that is because I'm doing an England-Bosnia watch-along later. In fact, in a few minutes' time, which I'm really getting ready for the Euros. But please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. We're getting very, very close to 880,000. In fact, we're only about 300 away. So bottom right-hand corner, make sure you subscribe to the United Stand, because at some point, it's going to surely... Well, I don't want to give false promises, but there will be points this season where there are big things to react to live. I mean, we're bound to sign at least 3 players, and we'll surely sell at least 2. And we will get an announcement on the manager at some point. So there's 5 or 6. I mean, I'd hoped that there'd be loads and loads and loads and loads, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The watch-along is on That's Football, mate, which we can put push you over to there after this anyway. What do you think about all the stuff that's on social media? Look, I don't think anybody's got a clue, mate. Honestly. And that's not because I don't have a clue. I think people want to come across as knowledgeable, but those same people genuinely thought that other managers were going to get the job, and then they didn't. And they've been, you know... look, listen to Fabrizio, listen to David Ornstein, you know, read the credible outlets. The bottom line is Man United is still saying that there's a strategic review going on and the process continues. There is nobody out there that has got a bloody clue that we're going to give it to Thomas Tuchel, keep Eric Ten Hag, or go for somebody else. It's all guesswork. So I wouldn't let any of that make you get too depressed or too happy. Because there are 2 sides to this coin. There's those, obviously, who would just... have different opinions, but nobody's got a clue what's going on. They haven't. And that's why, for me, even with all this stuff tonight, I'm just going to stick with 75% they're going to keep him, because I'm fed up of changing. And I could say I'm 25% sure they're going to keep him and 75% sure they're going to sack him. It really doesn't matter at this moment. I'm just going to stick with where I was last week, based upon the best information we had was last Tuesday or Wednesday, when we had the news that there were people within that boardroom who were warming towards keeping Ten Hag and were taking notice of the momentum around the players and the cup. I don't necessarily think that that's changed massively, and I'm going to still stay with that. But Jezza says you're 75% he stays. Because that's where we were last Wednesday, based on very good information. Now, obviously, that's nearly a week ago, but I don't really believe anything that's happened today is enough to change your mind. It might be for some. I think it's disrespectful what's going on. I think it's indecisive. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's really poor the way we've dealt with this. And it's not representative of the club I think Manchester United should be. We should be far more professional and efficient than this. Regardless of what happens, whether we keep Ten Hag or we sack him, I think everybody would agree with me in saying that there's no real winner in this because the victory has been lost. Like, if you wanted Ten Hag to go, you probably wanted him gone 2 weeks ago and the new manager in already working on transfers. If you want Ten Hag to stay, you probably wanted them to come out after the FA Cup final and say, this is our guy. I think it's a loss whatever they do because of how they've dealt with it. And you can hide behind a strategic review, but you had 3 months before the FA Cup for that. And you've also got 2 years. And if you're a lifelong fan, we've been having a strategic review on this community, and every fan in the ground and every fan in the world has been having an ongoing strategic review for 2 years. Because that's what being a fan is. You know the club, you know what's going on, and you have your ideas. You know who you think should be sold. You know who needs to be bought. You know what you think about the coach. This strategic review thing for me is just bullshit. Football's not that hard. You don't sit there crunching the numbers, analysing the data. Football is on instinct. And if you love a club, you know what needs to be done. And the fact that they're still hiding behind a strategic review just doesn't make any sense, really, to me. But there we go. Right, thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you're going to join in with me on That's Football because I've got loads to talk about. Absolutely loads. But other than that, what I do want to say is that thank you for everybody who listened to the Goldbridge Saves Football podcast. We actually had quite a big one going on today because I have announced that I am... Well, I was talking about the beta squad game in a bit of depth as well, and what I thought about the pitch invasion, which we can talk about on That's Football because it's only a friendly. But also, I'm not going to be doing Talk Sport anymore, which is a positive for the United stand because it means I can get back to doing Saturday night 8 o'clock shows. But I spoke all about why that and the reasons for it, and I've decided not to do it anymore. So that's on the podcast as well as an end of season review for all the teams, giving everyone a grade. So make sure that you give the podcast a listen. I don't know why it's not set on that. You can scan that QR code, go and give it a listen. And if you want to ask any questions about that, we'll be on That's Football in about 5 to 10 minutes time for an England watch along. I'll see you over there in a minute. Thanks for watching. Take care.